Yeah, oh Lord's right. Everyone's entertainment. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 p.m.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, up first, we have public comments. We have one person who turned in a sheet, Chris Zimmerman. Please use the microphone.
Greetings. You guys almost made it through my daughter's high school career without me coming and addressing the board. I did address the board in a special meeting when we had the problem with the radon at junior high, so I was hoping I wouldn't have to make a repeat appearance. But events of last week where I discovered on social media that teachers are posting their discontent with the administration of the high school. I'm not telling you what to do, but I don't think it shows the district or the school or the community in a good light when the teachers feel they have to resort to a public setting to air their grievance or their complaints about administration. I feel that it's detrimental to attract people to the community when they see the teachers are actively complaining, earmuffs, bitching about the school. I see a lot of time Farmer City residents complain about the city and paints the city in a bad light. We don't do it in Bellflower. I don't tolerate it on our community page. I think if you got a grievance, you approach the person, you talk to them, you work it out in person like an adult, as opposed to running to social media and addressing it. That being said, if they have issues that they feel that they need to take this approach to it, they need to be addressed. You guys are here to manage and take care of not only the children, but as well as the staff and faculty here. And we shouldn't have our dirty laundry aired in public when it should be done in the confines of the school through adult responses and get the union involved if need be. So that's what I originally came here to say. The second thing is, if Miles wants to be the volleyball coach, let him be the volleyball coach. I don't care what else is going on with him. He gets positive results with the students. His programs achieve good things, good light of the school, and reflects well on the community. And if he wants to come back and help the volleyball program, been decimated, and not for nothing, but the junior high principal a couple years ago pretty much ruined any kind of goodwill you're ever going to have from that class of students that went through while she was still principal. She was god-awful and horrendous. Not saying her name so she can't take legal action, but she was not very good as a principal. Nobody liked her. End of story. Lastly, exit interview these high school seniors and then interview them a year after they've been in college. Let's find out if we really are preparing them for college and life outside of high school. I don't know if you're going to like the answers, but those are answers you guys need to make sure that the next group of kids are being prepared for whether it's college, a trade school, going out and working, just having the basic life skills that they need to survive and achieve success in their lives as young adults. I don't feel that we get enough feedback from the students at a year out, 2 years out, 4 years out. Did we really do a good job in getting them ready to handle life as much as we're responsible to as a school district? So, thank you.
Okay, up next we have presentations, and we have exemplary nights. This evening we have exemplary night staff members and students. Up first we will do our staff members. For the exemplary night staff members, they have been recognized by their peers for their exemplary work. As a Board of Education, we want to thank them for their efforts and the positive impact they have on the Blue Ridge District. Okay. Up first from Schneider Elementary, we have Crystal Richardson. From Blue Ridge Intermediate and Junior High School, we have Melissa Wisman. And from the high school, we actually have 3 individuals tonight who have given many years of service to our district and will be entering the life of retirement after this year. So we wanted to recognize all 3 of them this evening. The first one is Gina Lagle. Clearly not entering retirement quickly. Eric Decker. Not here, but what's the last name? And Nancy Hoffman.
That's a great shirt.
She's wearing it every day. Attorney? And then tonight, we also recognize the exemplary actions of some students in our district. These students had actions that brought them to the attention of their teachers and/or the principal. And as a Board of Education, we want to tell you that we appreciate your efforts and your excellence, and we want to say thank you for a job well done. We'll start with the high school. We have 2 students being recognized. First is Carson Steiger. From 8th grade, we have Eli Fuller. From 7th grade, we have Peyton Keeler. Sixth grade is Tabitha Roberts. She's coming. Bria Reynolds. Like it just died. 3rd grade is Willow Weedman. Second grade is Levi Holstein. Is it Steen or Stein? First grade is Kel Askew. And kindergarten is Wrigley Shaw. She's like dancing up.
Are you going to do it the side?
And then Mr. Payne's going to take a quick photo, and then you can all come up and get a photo also.
All right, ready, guys? 3, 2, 1. Nice job. Now, parents, copy that.
She's like shining in the middle there. And now everyone will leave. Okay. Thanks for coming. See how many microphones we can have die tonight. That's the goal. I actually switched. I was like, well, mine doesn't work. Let's give this one a Joe. You can. I know. Here, give it back. Okay, up next we have communication.
So we had another FOIA request from a repeat process. Smart Procure asks for what our purchasing records are, and so we complied with that request in a timely manner. We had a letter from a staff member that you received in your packet. And then we also had an invitation to the IASB, so the School Board Governing Board Division meeting. And that's something that, Jonathan, in your position would be, if you are able to attend that meeting, that would be great. And if that doesn't work, then you could maybe assign a board member colleague to go. And whoever is attending, Christy can sign you up for that. And then, Francie, if you want to give the IASB liaison talking points for the month.
Okay. This month it talked about the Board President's Academy. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend that, or I would. Then they also talked about the governing board meetings that we just talked about that will take place in May and June. The joint annual conference 2024 registration will be available June 3rd, so I'm sure that next month and stuff we'll be talking about that. It's always the weekend before Thanksgiving, so if anyone wants to go ahead and start looking forward at your calendar if you can attend, it's time well spent. That's what the most I could say. You learn a lot about being a board member. You learn a lot about different things that we can bring back to the district to make things better for our students, staff, and everyone. And then I think it also talked about the Press and Press Plus issue that would be released at the end of March. So if you have any questions, if not, we'll go to committee reports.
No committee reports for this month.
And then administrative reports.
Okay, so for my report, I'll just summarize a few things. We are working actively on a Crisis Go safety app for the district to replace the current app that we use, which is Navigate Prepared. We are told that we are going to have much better reliability with breaking through a silenced phone, which is how most teachers keep their and staff members keep their phones during the school day, would be on silent mode. And so Andrea, Dave, and I have had multiple sessions with Crisis Go, and the administrative team will have a session to practice using the app again on Tuesday during AC, and then we'll have another tech team meeting scheduled for the end of next week, and then our school improvement day on Monday, the 29th of April. We're going to have the certified staff who are here on that day do some drills so they can start to get used to the app on their phone and feeling comfortable with how to respond to that. Hearing the noises, going through that today, it was very helpful. I have asked for Andrea and Dave to be present at each of those meetings. The technology piece is not something that is very intuitive to me. It's much more intuitive to others, and so I asked for their support, and they're going to help out. We'll put both Farmer City buildings together here in this building so they can be here to help, and then Andrea will help in Mansfield. And then the chiller report. It's a little bit warm in the building today. We have chillers, new chillers on site. The old ones are gone. The new ones are here, much smaller in size than what we had before. You can see them outside in the cage, kind of on the north side of the building. We are still doing our last minute work to get all of those things hooked up and to get the new glycol installed. And we are very hopeful, right, Mr. Easter, that we will have those within the next week or so. Yeah, it was getting quite warm today. So that was the reason for the announcement, because it was in the upper 80s when the gentleman arrived this morning at 6. So they got it cooled off a little bit, but we probably still could have used a little bit cooler temperatures. So, and then I'll move to the quarterly financial report. There were some on the back table there. Board members, you should have one in front of you. Again, getting familiar with the report that we look at every 3 months. You can see in the upper left-hand corner what the update date was. You'll notice it wasn't quite the end of March. We had to shut our financial system down for the migration from Skyward to Q, so we shut down a little bit before the end of March, but we're about at 75% through the fiscal year. Again, the first column in green, that's D, that's our audited fund balance from June 30th of 23. The remaining two other green columns are the budget items that you've approved. So column E, those are the approved revenues that were anticipated for this year, and column H is also in green. That was the proposed expenditures for 23-24. What I want you to look at right now, please, are the yellow columns. First, we'll look at the revenues in column F. So those are updated, what's come into each fund for the first about 3/4 of the school year. Everything's looking good there. You will notice that we have, let's see, bond proceeds have moved from a proposed column into actually the working cash fund, and also down below, the HLS bond proceeds have moved into that Fund 90 amount right there. So you can see the extreme percentage jumps. Like we have a percentage jump of 37.49% up in working cash. That's because of those bonds coming in. That was not part of the original budget, so that's why it's gone over by so much. Want to remind you that the early taxes that we received in FY23 have lowered what we have in the proposed revenues in column E, and that's just because the taxes came in early. It's not a bad thing, but if you don't know how to read that into the quarterly financial report, it could look a little upside down. Looking at the expenditures, that's actually where I look first, is column I in yellow, and I want to see what percentage of each of those balances we've used so far. If you look up top, we're in this between 62 and 69% of expenditures used to date, which is good because we're 75% through the school year. If you look down below, you see it's a little bit higher in bond and interest. That's due to the payment of our bond payments, the way they're scheduled. That's why that's a little bit higher. I also noticed the 91% in Fund 80, which is tort. Again, that's where insurance premiums come, and those are paid at the beginning of a fiscal year. That's why that percentage of expenditures is high. You'll notice one that's pretty low. You see where that one is? In Fund 90 with health and life safety. So we have the chiller project started, but we're not paying final bills for that yet. So that's why we anticipated quite a lot of HLS expenditures this year, and things just haven't started rolling into the books yet. I will add one more thing. If you go back to column G, up at top, you can see that the Fund 20 is a little bit lower in the percentage of revenues. Our corporate personal property replacement tax, CPPRT, is a little bit lower than anticipated right now. So that's why we're seeing a 64% instead of something in the 70s or 80s right there. I will also tell you that you've had a board email from me before. We had one piece of our track project that they wanted to do sooner than later, which is the survey work, and we did not anticipate paying for that in the FY24 budget. It wasn't put in to capital projects, and that's something they wanted to do early. It's already done. So tonight you'll be asked to pass a resolution to move money from working cash, because you can't spend out of working cash. You have to put the money into the fund that you can spend from. So I'm going to ask you to abate the working cash by $61,000, put it into capital projects so we can pay for that survey work that's been done for the track project, which will be done a year from now. So if that makes sense, that early payment will require us to amend the budget, because that wasn't, we're over what we expected to spend out of capital projects. So you'll hear more about that next month, and also in June. That's when we'll have the final amended budget ready for approval. Any questions?
Yeah, which line shows capital projects? Like how?
Capital projects is Fund 60. It's also called site and construction. Sorry,
Okay.
sometimes they have multiple names.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Up next, we have Mr. Payton.
Good evening. I'm just going to cover a few things tonight. We did have pre-K screenings last week, the 11th and 12th. We had around 20 students that was signed up. We actually only had about 19 that were screened, which is still exciting. You know, we do our spring screenings every year, and then we also do a fall screening, which is kind of more of a summer, July 25 and 26, because it falls really early this year. We've already started that process as far as collecting and scheduling for that time, but we will have some openings. So if you know of any pre-K students between the ages of 3 but not yet 5 before September 1st, please send them our way.
So I do have a question.
Yeah.
They should contact you now.
Yes.
Someone just asked me
Yep,
about this
yep.
this
So
week.
we will
and
actually
I said,
put out
they'll
as
put
of-
something out there later.
Yeah, no,
I
we will
lied,
put
so-
something out within the
okay.
next week. We'll get it out into all of the community spaces that we do, post office, library, those type of
Their
things.
child's about to turn 3, so they knew they couldn't come. So
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
asking me. I was like, in July.
Yeah, we like them to
Okay.
be 3 before they screen. Sometimes if it's one of those last minute things and they're like, 2 years and 11 months, we'll screen in July if we have an opening. So yeah, absolutely. Please share any individual that is 3 at this point to come and screen in July, or we'll turn 3 before July 25 and 26. We did finish our IAR assessments. We got that done last week and went really well. We actually were able to get all of our makeups done last week. It took us 3 days to assess. We had 3 ELA assessments and 2 math, I believe. Is that what it was? vice versa. But yeah, that went really well. We were able to get through everything. We were able to celebrate all the hard work and test completion on Friday. We had some afternoon treats and snacks and just some fun events that happened. And then we'll just be anxiously awaiting our results that will come hopefully sooner rather than later. And then the last thing I wanted to touch base on was our spring open house, book fair, community fair. We had a really good turnout. Actually, Ms. Beeman had shared that it was, I think, our highest revenue we've ever had from a book fair in the last 10 years plus that we have record of that. So we had a really good turnout and just some really good opportunities for our families this year. Every student received a free book, which was really cool. We saw a lot of families that typically don't get to come to these events because it is a financial hardship on some families to purchase some of these things. And so PIE donated over $1,500. The book fair, Ms. Beeman put some of the money that she had made through former book fairs to support some books too. So it was really cool for those kids to come and they were very excited. And then also with some of the funds that were created from the last book fair, Ms. Beeman actually allowed our teachers to kind of create a wish list, which was really cool. And so they were able to select some books that they wanted to add to their classroom libraries, and Ms. Beeman purchased those for that to take place. So really cool opportunity. Ms. Beeman has done a great job. And then, we had over 14 organizations that were in the cafeteria, everywhere from Heritage Behavioral Health to, the police department was there, to just all sorts of community organizations that, sometimes people don't know they have access to living in our community. So it's just a really good opportunity for people to see those organizations. And then, of course, all the awesome stuff that the kids created for the actual the open house itself. So teachers have put a lot of work and effort into that, and the students created some really cool pieces that all the parents and everyone were able to see. So I have any questions? I've done a lot of talking today. So, sit down.
Just have a few things to share from my board report. We also will be wrapping up our season of state testing next week with our science assessment at 5th and 8th grades. They'll have 3 sessions that they take in there. Also towards the first part of May, we're going to be having our 3rd diagnostic with iReady. That's our new system where our kids take that in the fall. Goals are set for them. We also take one in the wintertime to kind of see if they're on pace for their goals. And then in the spring assessment, that spring diagnostic says whether or not, hey, did you make your goal or did you make it past your goal? What's really nice about those outside of the goal setting is also that it gives us a chance to see how our kids measure up nationally as a national percentile too. So it helps us with a lot of decision making on how to serve our kids the best, especially as we look at interventions in our school. Quick play update for Murder at the Malt Shop that will be happening at the junior high April 26th and 27th at 7 p.m. And then we will have a matinee. It's been moved from 2 to 4 on the Sunday, the 28th of April. There'll be $5 for adults, $3 for students, and children 5 and under are free. And a cool new update too is that during intermission and at the conclusion of each one of the shows, there will be root beer floats in the kind of in the spirit of the malt shop. So we're pretty excited to see our kids perform and have people from the community come into the school. Any questions? Thank you, guys.
Wasn't sure if I had to wait to be invited. Yep, just like the other buildings, we're wrapping up our season of testing of the state and all the different tests. Last week we had a big day where our freshmen and sophomores were doing their PSATs and the juniors were doing the SATs and the seniors had a day off. And so we had testing going on all throughout the building. Those scores, well, the SAT scores get calculated into our state report card. So next year when the report card comes out, we'll see where we stack up against the rest of the state. And that's one of the measurements that's used there in our state report card. Another one is the Illinois State Science Assessment, which our juniors took yesterday. And that was something that took place in the in Moore Gymnasium, and that's also a little piece of the puzzle there for our state report card. So hopefully the kids were well fed and focused and performed well, so we get good results on those things. Something else exciting, as Chelsea was alluding to earlier, got to take some kids. Sally Turner is the Illinois State Senator that represents this area of Farmer City, Mansfield. Does she go up to Bellflower? Yep. I looked at the map in her office, and it looked like a puzzle piece, and it was all the big cities that were taken out of it, Bloomington Normal, Champaign, Urbana, Decatur, and all that. But anyway, so I saw she has a, yeah, it happens. So she invited students to come to participate in a youth advisory council and just an opportunity for them to go see how government works. And Leslie Hieronymus took some kids to meet with her and her staff last fall, and they got to look at how bills are created. And then yesterday we got to go to the Capitol and do like a mock argument and presentation of a bill, and the kids got to participate in all that. And Romero was actually the one that presented the bill to everybody and had to explain it. And then they were asking him a bunch of questions which he didn't really know the answer to, but he did a good job of making stuff up, which was fantastic. So yeah. But it was a lot of fun. But yes, the highlight of my day was definitely seeing Chelsea there. She thought I was playing hooky, so that was great. Another positive thing that occurred recently, our FFA group last week was at a district competition for PolyPro and conduct of chapter meetings, and those teams that we had both advanced to state competition. The conduct team took first place at districts and is going to state, I think, for the first time in, I think Jacqueline said, 15 years. So the kids are very excited, and those are all freshmen on that team, and so they're already planning on nationals. So anyway, be ready for that. So yeah, I think that's it. Any questions? Yes, Chelsea. You know what? There was that Schoolhouse Rock thing. Yeah, it's a long process, I remember. So, yeah, good question. I'll get back to you on that one. Yeah, yes. Excellent, yeah.
I'm going to have that song in my head all night long. Now I'm just a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. Yeah. Anyway, so you have my board report. There were a couple things I just thought I would highlight for you of things I'm working on with the end of school coming up soon. It's the end of student attendance, but we have lots of professional development opportunities for teachers in June. So I thought I'd share some of those. We're going to have 4 to 5 days of 6th through 12th grade doing teachers doing some science collaboration and vertical and horizontal alignment, which is exciting using our new Savvis science curriculum. We have math coaches coming from the ROE to work with our K through 8 math teachers. We have a literacy specialist coming to present to our teachers about the science of reading. We are going to have a couple days of curriculum alignment as well for our teachers during the summer. We have a professor, a doctor from, I believe, Bradley University, who's going to come talk about effective language solutions, and that will be for our K through 6 teachers. And we also have some of our title teachers doing some additional training, specifically with the Orton Gillingham training approach. So that's all just in June. And then we're also working on our programming for summer school, which is going to start that last week of July. And so in addition to us using our iReady program, for our students that have individual learning paths, we're also collaborating with the U of I 4-H Extension Office. We have the Champaign County Forest Preserve that's going to come over and do some programming with us. And then we also have the Bloomington Children's Museum, and all of that will be using ESSER 3 funds. So that's coming together nicely, and I'm excited to see what the students think of the new model that we're going to be sharing with them in July. Do you have any questions? I hope you saw the section about dual credit that I'm working on. There's some exciting things going on there, hopefully for the 25-26 school year. That seems so far away, but it won't be, so.
We have the rest of the reports in there. Hillary, did you want to say anything about any of those, like Illinois funds? I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, Illinois funds, I think you'll be very pleased to see, I think that's on page 54, about the interest that's being earned on the bond proceeds for both HLS and working cash. That's been invested, and we are making a lot of interest on that. That's going to be helpful for the concession stand build, perhaps the bleacher project out there as well. So Kara does a very nice job with that, and Jason gave a good recommendation, and we're making great progress.
Is it possible to also see how much we're paying on interest on just those particular things, just to see that we are actually, I mean, I know that the number looks awesome the way it is, but the whole idea is that it's covering our interest on that loan right now and a little bit more. But I'm just wondering if on the next month, if we can see what that difference is in between the interest that we're making off it and the interest that we're paying on it.
Okay. Let me see if I can do that, or, yeah.
If it's not.
Yeah,
crazy.
those payments are done on different time frames,
Schedules.
but yeah, let me see what I can do with that.
Okay.
Question. Can we put more money in there? I mean, we've got a lot of money sitting in the bank. I mean, can we put more in there? It's accessible within, what's the notice?
24 to 48 hours.
Yeah,
It's very
quick.
accessible.
I mean-
There's a possibility that we can do that. We have, right now we're looking at chiller payments going to be made fairly soon. We have the chairlift that's going to be paid pretty soon. We have a couple other big items, but once we get fully migrated into Q and we have some time that we're buying back from that process that they're working on so heavily, then we can maybe start looking at that maybe around June again.
Cool.
Yeah.
This was just testing the waters and making sure that this also worked, right? That was the idea is,
Yes, but I don't know that we feel like we're testing so much because Kara has had experience with that in a previous district. So
Fantastic.
she was well aware and knew that that was a good way to go. We decided on the amount based upon what we knew was coming up with invoices and such. So, but we can definitely reevaluate. We're very pleased with what we're seeing so far.
I had a question about when we get money, interest paid to us, it goes into the working cash flow
Well,
from there?
if we put money in from the working cash fund, then the interest that we earn on that portion of it goes back into working cash.
Okay.
And same thing with HLS.
Okay, and then anything that's in working cash, that's like one fund that we can distribute to other funds?
Right. You just can't spend directly
That's-
out of it.
That's the only one, right? That you can move money between?
There's other
funds?
movements, to be honest. It's very tricky, which can
Okay.
move from which fund to which fund, so I always
Okay.
have to look that up.
That's
But yes,
confusing.
working cash can go where it's needed.
Okay,
You just can't spend, there's never a time where you can spend directly from working cash.
okay.
It's just like the parent holding the purse. You can't hold, parent's not
Right.
going to do that. They have to divvy it out to someone to spend it.
Because where my mind was thinking was that it seemed like we always have the smallest amount of money available in the transportation fund. So I don't know if that's a concern even.
It's a concern for sure.
Right.
But
So that
could working
ma-
cash be used for that? Yes.
Yeah.
That's not a long-term solution,
Right.
but it could be if we had an emergency.
Okay.
Yep.
Up next, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items listed on attachment A as presented. Chelsea? Second. Jonathan? Chelsea Lefferman? Yes. Jonathan Nagel? Yes. Jason Nolan? Yes. Jenna Johnson? Yes. Sig Ingram? Yes. Derek Fernandez?
Aye.
Francie Miller? Yes. Okay.
Right. Everything's new.
So we have new business next. Up first is consideration for letting bids for concession stand addition and remodel.
Okay, so the idea with the concession stand is to, the building that is existing right now was a Ken Seneca and student build. The plan is to use that as a concession building for the seasons in 2024. Meanwhile, with your permission, we would go out for bids to add the the addition to that building on. That addition would be attached, but it would be at an east-west angle, so there's going to be a little bit of an angle there in the two-part building. We would start that build, and when all the athletics for the 2024 season are done, then we can start to gut that current concession area, and then all of it would be wrapped in siding, all of it would be re-roofed. I didn't have digital plans for you, but I have the large size if you would like to take a look. Rusty did take time to meet with all of the different groups that would have access to storage in that building, just to make sure that, we had rolling doors where they were needed. We had, like Sig had said, we have twice as much storage as what we think we need. You never have enough closet space, right? But the new building will have restrooms in it. And the new concession area with the roll-up window will actually be looking straight north, so they'll be able to see the field, which if you've served in the concession building, you're at an awkward angle. You're facing east, and when you're in there, you don't get to see anything that's going on. So we'll be able to take care of that. So, question?
I was just wondering, for the structure, are we going to have like the industrial arts class with Scott do any of it, or are we bidding the entire project?
Bidding the entire project. The timing is, Scott actually has a long list of things in front of him already. Plus the timing of the project doesn't align very well with when his students would be ready to do
Gotcha.
projects.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
If there are no other questions or comments, I need a motion in a second to approve the letting of bids for the concession stand addition and remodel for Blue Ridge CUSD number 18 as presented. Jonathan, second. Derek?
Aye.
Yes. Up next, we have consideration for fiscal year 25 interim assistant principal at Schneider Elementary.
All right, so in the last couple months, we've had some planning going on for the next years coming up, not just next year, but the year after. So with Mr. Payton assuming the role of superintendent in the summer of 25, there's a little bit of training that we'd like to get done before that time. So the idea is that right now, Mr. Payton doesn't have too many opportunities on the regular to come over and learn some of the superintendent jobs. A principal and a superintendent really have very different jobs. We all have the same goals, but we have very different jobs. And sometimes in a district this size, the superintendent is the only one who knows that superintendent role. So I would really appreciate having time to be able to work with Mr. Payton very closely. In order for that to be a reality, I would ask that you would consider having Mary Diener, who's the current interim assistant principal here at the high school, since Jim Kirkton will be coming in as a full-time assistant, if we could use Mary as an interim assistant principal at Snyder Elementary. And elementary is where she came from, not in this district, but that's her area of expertise. And she would be able to serve there. She can only serve 120 days because as a retiree, who doesn't really like retirement, she can't go over that max, but that would allow Ryan to be with me in the office, attending meetings and doing all those learning things a couple days a week. So right now you would just be asked to open the position, and then we'll talk a little bit more in closed session about the details. No, because no. Mary's over there for sake of continuity. She's an evaluator, so she can help share the evaluation load with Mr. Payton. And so that's going to allow him time to be here, and then it'll be Mr. Payton's decision what happens with filling his role the next year. But Mary would not be eligible for that. Yep.
I need a motion and a second to approve an interim assistant principal position at Schneider Elementary for the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
So moved.
Derek and Sig.
Aye.
Yes. And up next, we have consideration of an action upon a resolution authorizing the abatement of $61,000 from the working cash fund to the capital projects fund.
Okay, so this is what we've been referring to with Vernon Jones doing the part of the project, the survey part of the project earlier than expected. That's fallen in FY24. And so we have the money sitting in working cash. So this resolution is what allows me legally to transfer from working cash, or to abate, meaning it's not going to go back, to take from working cash into capital projects, which is where you do your big project work from. So that's the only thing. I've gotten a schedule of payments from them for the rest of the job, and nothing else is going to happen within FY24. Probably the majority of it's going to be within FY25. A little bit might go into FY26.
I need a motion and a second to approve the resolution to abate the working cash fund to the capital projects fund in the amount of $61,000 for the purpose of paying for the work that has been completed on the track and field project for Blue Ridge CUSD number 18 as presented. Jason and Sig? Yes. Up next, I have the approval to contract with Ideal Environmental for asbestos abatement services.
Okay, so Ideal is the company that we work with for our regular monitoring. And when we had a recent visit from the fire marshal, they looked in the basement below Moore Gym and said that there was too much of drama storage in there. We didn't have enough clearance to the sprinklers and so on. So that was posing a safety hazard. So the project was started to move things out of that basement area. In the process, some asbestos was found. And so Ideal was contacted right away. They have done all the sealing off that they need to do right now. And then the next process is for them to come up with a plan for what they're going to do to help us. Ideal is not the company that actually will do the removal or the abatement of the asbestos, but they coordinate and they do the bidding out of the company who will do that. So it's kind of a third-party situation. So Ideal has come back to us, and they gave us a proposal with some numbers attached to it, some financials. And with your approval, then what will happen next is Ideal will develop a more detailed plan. They'll do the bidding for it. The company, that plan that Ideal comes up with has to go to the state. The state has to approve it. Then it goes out for bids. Then a bid will be accepted, and then the work will be done. If you can hear all these different chains that are going out there, we will be very lucky if we can get this done during the summertime. We are currently absolutely safe right now, but when they do start the project, things will have to be sealed off. It's quite a large undertaking. Has to be done by the right type of company. So we're hoping that we can get that done. Worst case scenario would be that if we don't get that done, Moore Gym would have to be closed off during the school year when the work is being done. So we're trying to move quickly on that because we just heard from Ideal that we can.
So, and it's not something that can be left in place and just taped off. I'm just wondering, I remember when we were going to junior high, there was asbestos on the pipes in the, locker rooms, but it wasn't even taped off or anything. It was back there, and you weren't messing with it. And I mean, who really has access to the basement area of I'm sure it's really not up to us. It's probably like a requirement or something, but I'm not familiar with it.
The drama team is down there quite a bit
Oh.
in between things, and this is what the recommendation is. And this actually will be HLS work, so it would be paid for out of Fund 90, and there is a school maintenance grant that we just were accepted for FY, it's probably an FY24, for a matching grant, which is about in the same amount. So the amount of money that we're going to spend really is already going to be set aside in HLS through another change of events with a grant that's been offered. So I feel like it's the right thing to do now. I will say that there is some kind of a vent system on the east side of Moore Gym. You can see some tape around it if you've been in the gym up on the top. Similar vent, the symmetrical vent on the other side, that was already taken care of years ago. So that asbestos was already abated. I have no idea why they didn't look across the curtain to see you got the same exact situation going on over here. So I don't know, but we're trying to finish it and finish it correctly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need a motion and a second to approve entering into a contract with Ideal Environmental for the asbestos abatement project in the basement below the Moore Gym stage at BRHS and the respective vent as presented.
So moved.
Derek and Kenna? Yes. Up next is the consideration for PSRP extra duty on fall 2024 SIP and Institute days.
Okay, so all the educators in the room understand that there are increasing number of legislative requirements that come, with every press policy. It's what else are we going to have to fit into the same time frame that we have? It's unbelievable the amount of legislative things that govern what we do every day. By the way, we're trying to teach kids at the same time. So one of the things that we've noted is that we have some mandatory trainings that need to be done well, and they need to be done across the board, not just with the certified staff. One of the new requirements is a trauma-informed training for all staff before the school year starts. Well, the only day that that's possible for this upcoming year would be August 13th, and there's a long list of policies that I get to cover with everybody. They love that part of August 13th, don't they? Yeah, all the policy conversation, and the staff meetings and all the things that have to happen at that one day before we start. We can't do justice to the trauma-informed practices training that we need to give to people when we're cramming it all in the very day before school starts and they're all worried about the decorations in their room and what kids are going to be in their classrooms. So we feel like, while I'll touch on it then, we really need to do a better job with that. And in order for everybody to be present, I'm asking that you consider the only people who would, PSRP categories, who would not already be working on the fall SIP day and the Institute day in October would be our cooks and our paraprofessionals and our drivers. I believe it would cost about $3,000 to bring them all in for about 3 hours on that September morning, and again about 3 hours on that October morning. Things that we can do would be going back over those trauma-informed practice trainings that we need to do, the new safety app that we have. I'll tell you, if anybody's like me and technology is not extremely intuitive, I want you to have more practice on that app. And so that would be something that we can do with them at that time. And then last year, if you remember, we put in place social emotional learning lessons into all of our buildings on a regular basis. That's what we call Tier 1. Because everybody is teaching that to the kids. Now we have to look at Tier 2 interventions for behavior. So if we have some students that are not responding to the teaching that everybody's getting, we have to do some specialized things. And we need for all of our staff to be on board and understand that so it can be impactful and done with fidelity. So in those couple of hours, we would use that time, I think, very wisely. I think $3,000 would be a steal for all that training that we could do. So that's the request. Oh, and I will say that, we've met with Angela and her team. This is not a requirement. This is a heavily recommended, and we really want the union and the administrators to work together to say to the paraprofessionals, to the cooks, and to the drivers, we really want you to be here. We're going to tell you if it's approved, we're going to tell you in May so you can schedule your doctor's appointments accordingly for those September and October days that they're usually off, because we really want you to be here.
Is this training something that will be available to, so let's say we onboard somebody halfway through the year for whatever reason, are we going to bring out who's doing the training?
I believe the training for trauma-informed practices, some is going to be done by the Baby Fold, and some is going to be done by Blair Green, who's our special ed administrator from Tri-County. Okay. So do we have an opportunity to record? Probably at least with Blair. I'm not sure. We'd have to ask the Baby Fold personnel if we can do that.
Okay.
Questions or comments? I need a motion and a second to approve the offer of extra duty hours to cooks, paraprofessionals, and drivers on the September 2024 SIP Day and the October 2024 Institute Day for the purpose of including them with the remaining district staff for critical trainings as presented.
Second.
Kenna and Derek.
Alrighty, so we have a couple things at Snyder. Behind me, if you see the walk, if you've walked from the high school to Snyder before, you know there's that dip right before you get to Snyder. I myself have fallen there. Rusty has watched many children fall down that, especially when it's a little bit icy outside. But the grade right there is really not the way it's supposed to be. It should be more gradual. There's 2 concrete pads right before that decline area that are cracked. And so part of the proposal is that we would replace the 2 cracked pads and make it a more graceful decline, I should say, going into Snyder from the high school. The second part that Rusty is proposing, the flower bed that's right to the north of the glass doors on Snyder has been an eyesore. I've been here 7 years. It's been an eyesore the whole time. We have some beautiful spring flowers in there right now, but it just becomes an absolute mess and things wash out of there. The proposal would include, like if you're on the side of Snyder walking from the east side to the west side, where you see like where kindergarten might come out, you see those lines drawn for them. There's a little bit of an incline right there. So they're proposing having a wall from the top spot all the way to where the walk would go from the high school to Snyder. Hopefully that's making sense. At most, it would probably be about 2 feet tall, and it would just level off that bed. So that bed for flowers would be all at one level. And then we do have the FFA group here at the high school has talked about being responsible for that flower bed. We would take out the large bush that's in it, which is a visual issue between the high school and Snyder. And then any of the tulips or bulbs that we could recover from there could come into this bed that's close to the entrance to the high school. And then FFA could have a nice, clean, fresh start and hopefully be willing to maintain that bed. The last part of the proposal is Mr. Payton's bike rack. Right now is 2 bike racks sitting in the grass. So when it's muddy outside and the bikes go on there, it just makes for a mess, and then it's hard to mow around bike racks that are sitting in the grass. If you put the bike racks on the sidewalk, which is what happens when mowing season starts, then all of your foot traffic is right there with the bikes, and the kids don't really know not to put their bikes on that side, so it's just asking for an accident right there. So the proposal would be to lay a pad that's on like the inside of the front lawn, attached to the sidewalk. So both of the bike racks could be there, and bikes could be on both sides without hanging over onto the footpath on the sidewalk. So you see a proposal there from a local concrete vendor. I guess I'm just looking for, how many more estimates would you like to have? I believe that we're going to come in under our bidding threshold. Our new bidding threshold is $35,000. So I'd like to know kind of your guidance on how you would like us to proceed. How many other estimates would you like us to have, since it doesn't have to be a formal bid?
I'd like to see one other bid at least. That way
Okay.
it's just reference if nothing else.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we will do that. And come back to you next month, hopefully. Well, next month is kind of quick because it's an early board meeting, so it might be more like June. Right. Okay, so in Deborah's report last month, I believe it was, you heard about some, a large number of incidents that are occurring on buses, and some of the questions were, how do we help that? I'll tell you this, I'm very thankful for our drivers, because I can't imagine being the front of a bus with all the children on the back, not being able to look at them directly, either at the beginning of the day when kids are stressed about going to school, or at the end of the day when stuff has happened. So hats off to those who are willing to be in front of the big yellow buses. So some of what we have is we have a situation where not every bus has an aide on there. The aides that we do have are what we would consider one-on-one aides. So an IEP might say that student A needs to have an aide with them on the bus. And so when the aide is on the bus for student A, the aide is sitting directly with, or if they agree, might be across the aisle from that student, but that is their charge. So they cannot go to the back of the bus to take care of C and D that are having a popcorn fight or whatever in the back. They have to stay up front. So what Deborah did was she put together a couple different ideas for how can we get more supervision, less conflict on the buses. Principals are doing what they can when they get that information, calling home, meeting with students. Sometimes the best prevention is, something that can be done immediately. So she does continue to do behavior management training with her drivers throughout the year. I think that's great because she's very safety oriented. So she has monthly meetings with them, and that's what comes up. She often finds that it's most helpful if there's been a certain specific situation. She can use that in her training and talk about what could we do next time to respond better. If we really wanted to look at pie in the sky, what could we do better? We could hire another driver, because we have another bus that's available, and if we hired another driver, the routes could be smaller, so it would be less likely to have some of the issues that we have on there now, because we are full. Another option would be to add an aide to the buses that don't have an aide. We could do that. The cost to add an aide on a bus would be about $12,000 for an entire school year. Either 3 or 4 aides would take care of our situation. Right now, we have one of our one-on-one aides. Once that student is off the bus, the aide gets off the bus at the same location and doesn't continue on the bus. So that's not a full help. The other situations where we have one-on-one aides, when their student they're charged with is off the bus, they stay on the bus. So it's kind of like they become a regular aide. So 3 or 4 would do the trick. So that's something to consider. And then the other idea would be hiring less than that for aides and making them floating aides and kind of putting them where you have a current issue. So if red is struggling, then you put the aide on red. And if purple is struggling, then you move the aide to purple. You don't have as much of a relationship built when that happens. It's kind of like a substitute teacher going in. So we just wanted to bring that to you. I know it's kind of early, it's still April, and we would be talking about this for the next school year. So just wanted to give you some time to think through that, maybe ask some questions so I can go back and tell Deborah what else we would like to give so you can make a better decision.
If we do hire aides, would it be possible to get them trained to drive buses and they could maybe provide dual purpose when we're missing a bus driver? Hey, you're going to fill in and that's your normal bus kind of thing?
That would always be a wonderful plan.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't even know if you decided you wanted us to hire 3 aides. I don't even know if we could find one. It's a very unique time of day to be available that early in the morning and then have nothing and then all of a sudden be available in the afternoon. So it's not, people are not knocking down our doors to be drivers or aides on the bus. But yes, that would be a possibility, absolutely, that we could be cross-trained. In fact, Sarah Field actually was trained so she could drive the van this year when we had a in the middle of the year situation. She's not certified to drive a bus, but she's certified to drive a van. So we look into all those possibilities. Yeah.
Do we have cameras on the buses? And so when somebody has a problem, can you see what you need to see from the footage?
Yep.
And then is it addressed with the kids? And well, I know
And
it's
that doesn't fix the problem?
It doesn't fix the well, the incentive. Well, what's the incentive for them to stop? Like, are you going to kick them off the bus? Are you going to make their
That
parents
happens
drive
too.
them?
Yeah.
You know?
They can be
Because
suspended from the bus.
You would think that losing bus privileges would be a pretty serious incentive for a parent to make sure that their kid's behaving.
Right.
It doesn't work.
One would think.
Some kids don't care what their parents think.
Or driver?
No.
Multi-trained?
No thanks.
Deborah won't let me drive a bus, by the way.
It's kind of surprised, like, if we kick all these kids off the buses, then, well, we won't have any more problems, right?
Yes, but the number of days that you can do that is also limited. And I'll tell you, the principals spend a lot of time, especially at the lower 2 buildings. That's where the behaviors are coming from. A lot of times by the time they get to the high school, they're driving themselves or driving with a friend. So they're not heavily using the buses as much. But at the lower levels, especially 6, 7, 8, I would guess is where those, we're testing our wings a little bit. So yes, they spend a lot of time looking at videos. Videos aren't shared with parents, but they're shared with administrators. Then there's scheduled meetings and conversations with kids and families and follow-up phone calls and so on and so on. So I didn't, National Guard. Are there any other things that you would like, any other data that you would like from myself or from Deborah? I know it's a lot to think about, so I'll just say again, my rough calculations were it's about $12,000 to pay for an aide for a school year. We have to be careful with overtime. Sometimes we have, because an aide might be able to do like a morning route, but not a morning and an afternoon, and then you have to figure out how to get them back to where they started. But, I mean, a lot of times we need an aide, and Paige will ride, I will ride. You know, if we have a last-minute thing, a one-on-one aide that we can't fill, we do all kind. I'm allowed to do that. I'm just not allowed to drive. But and then Chris Mitchell, sometimes he's I would say our only spare driver that we have, but he needs to be in the classroom. But sometimes we can ask Chris to add on a morning or an afternoon route based on his schedule if we're short on drivers. So Deborah is very creative. I will say that.
Good luck.
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to. We can't even have a parent step on a bus, so I don't think we can have them ride the bus.
So you can't have any volunteers. It has to be a staff member. Like
Yeah,
a
it would have to be it would have to be somebody hired by us.
Okay, and the school board count as?
I've never been asked the question if a school board member could ride a bus.
I mean.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I have some flexibility at
questions might
work,
work
so
better
if,
over email
if you
also.
really, if you think you would like me to ride the bus and it's allowed, then I can figure out 1 day or 2 days a week where I could do that and help out.
Making note, Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, it's it's videotaped, right? So I'm sure my.
Oh. For suspension? The number of days that you can suspend. I believe there's a 10-day limit on bus suspensions as well? Yeah. Year.
Dictates that, is that just law?
Yeah.
Is our biggest problem in acquiring drivers pay or our location because of the hours and there aren't enough local people to want to work that job?
I have learned that our drivers, even if our pay doesn't look like it's top of the surrounding areas, we do pay full when a driver is sitting on a trip versus driving on a trip. Other districts give a driving rate for a trip and a sitting rate for a trip, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
So it's really hard to compare bus driver pay. I don't, I mean, could it be the pay? Maybe, but there are so many testing things that drivers have to go through. I think it's just willingness to find someone.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's a very odd schedule.
People don't want to jump through those hoops
Yeah.
if they're.
So do we want to think about that and put that back on next month and talk about it further? I've seen a lot of, yeah.
And it allows a lot of time for questions to be emailed back and forth as well.
All right, so no motion on that. And up next, I need a motion and a second to move from open session to closed session for the purpose of appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance.
Bert would like to speak first. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was getting so excited. 8:04. Welcome.
Thank you.
What, you mean all kids cause problems?
Thanks, Becky.
Okay, so now I need a motion and a second to move from open to closed session for the purpose of appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, dismissal of specific employees of the school district or collective negotiation matter between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more employees at 8:05.
Aye.